Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Bravo Bedside Banter. I am Meredith, joined here with Rachel.
Hey, everyone.
And today we will be discussing on when it is the right time to make the next step in your relationship. So I was watching Real Housewives of New Jersey this week, and it's kind of Dolores's whole storyline. I feel like it's been this way since last season. I almost said last semester, last season, where he
Feels
is
like a
really on
semester.
Polly. I know. At school, get it out. Yeah, so she's been really on Polly about being engaged and moving in with him. And then I thought it was also very appropriate that Teresa's daughter is also in this situation where she's wanting to move in with her boyfriend, Gia.
How old is Gia? I couldn't remember when I
I
was watching
want
the
to say
episode.
that she's like 18, but I think in reality she's like 25 or 24.
I still think of her as like a 5-year-old every time I watch it. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're not old enough to move in. And I'm like, no, she definitely is an adult.
First you were one, then you were two.
True
Yeah.
gems of the housewives.
I know. It's kind of crazy that we just watched that whole family grow up.
Yeah.
I mean, this was like Teresa was on Housewives when she had like a full on five head. She got the
Yeah.
forehead surgery.
Yeah. Would they bring her hairline down, right?
Yeah, something like that.
I think it's hair plugs too, what they do for that. So, which is crazy. I have a friend that just got a hair transplant. It's nuts. Do you know what they
Wait,
do?
what?
Yeah, so when they make if it's the surgery I'm thinking of, what they do is they do a hair transplant. And so what they take a bunch of hair from the back of your head and basically like pull out the roots and then plant it up here and then like plant all of those rooted hairs at the top of your forehead for this case. And then it looks like real hair and then it all dies and you look bald again and then it grows back. And it's like a year-long process until you have the hair. But then it's like permanently there. So you don't have to worry about it falling out or anything, like you will have that hair. But it's like my friend, I think it was like $20,000 for him to get
What?
his receding hairline done. Yeah.
I mean, I guess if it's going to impact your confidence, then all power to you. If you got coins like that to blow on a hair transplant.
I'm pro plastic surgery, pro all of that. If it makes you feel good about yourself, if it is something that you want to do and have the money to do it, go do it. Like, why not? Life is short. If it's going to make you happier, do it.
I agree. There
Yeah.
is definitely a limit where I see it be done in excess to the point of borderline insanity. But if that's what makes you happy, then go off.
Totally. So, like, moving in, what do you think about Gia moving in with her boyfriend then? Do you think,
Well,
because she's young, she still is young. What do you think about moving in when you're in your early 20s with someone?
so I think it's really interesting because as I was watching it, it was actually kind of sweet to see Teresa be act as a mother towards her and still kind of offer like parental insight. And she shared, I want everything for my children that I didn't have. And one of those things for me was that I did not live on my own and I would love for my children to live on their own. So Gia is, I would assume, living with Teresa and Louis and is now at a position where she's ready to live with her boyfriend. I know that she and her boyfriend have been together for 4 or 5 plus years, a while, long enough to where it would make sense. I
Yeah.
think too, when I was thinking about, our discussion today, I feel like there is no one size fits all answer. There is no, oh, you have to be this old or you have to be in a relationship with someone for this amount of time. And I know that you probably agree with that as well.
Yeah, I definitely do. The nuance that I would add to that is I do think it's really important to live alone at some point in your life. I think that that's a really important step for a couple, especially I would say as women. We're the first generation of women who have had the financial and educational and legal opportunities to even live alone. And I think it's a really important experience for women to have. I lived alone for 5 years until I moved to Hawaii. And then I lived alone prior to that, 2 years before I lived with my ex. And so those were really pivotal years in my own journey that I do not regret at all. Even though sometimes it was lonely, it
Yeah.
was really important for me. And I also work with clients too that I've had a lot of clients who in their 40s, 50s, even, and they have always been in a relationship or they've been with their partner since they were in their early 20s and they've never lived alone. And it comes up in session of like, I feel like I missed out. I've never lived alone. I've always lived with someone. That's a common thing that I hear people say of like this regret of not living alone. So even if it's
Yeah.
like 6 weeks, go do it. Go live alone.
I
Did you
agree.
live
And I
alone?
think I did. I lived
Yeah.
alone for a year. And I do think there's a lot that you can understand and learn about yourself and how you like your space and how you want to show up in your own space. And it was definitely nice. I will also say that there was a desire within me to have a partner live with me simply because of how expensive it was. Like I was living in Denver by myself and
Yeah.
fronting all the bills by myself, and to be honest, I just couldn't afford it. And so it came down to it being like this is more of an emotional relationship decision, but it's a financial decision that if we're going to be spending 50% of the nights together anyways, then what are we doing here? And so I lived alone for a year and then we moved in together.
Yeah, I love that. I think you're bringing up a really good point too, which like finances definitely play into availability to live alone. Um, and that's not something to overlook. Do you have the financial means to live alone? If you do, highly recommend taking that opportunity. I think the best part for me about living alone before I lived with someone was how much freedom I felt to like truly be myself. There's like I'm gonna dance around the kitchen naked and to whatever music I want. I'm gonna cook whatever I want or not cook, and I'm going to watch whatever I want. There's like this immense freedom and this almost like deep like fun selfishness you get to have of like I don't have to care about anyone else. I don't have to worry if the dishes are in the sink and it's disrespectful to the person that
Yeah.
wakes up in the morning. I don't have to worry if I want to keep the fan on at night and they don't. Like I get to choose all of these things for myself, and it's like this deep freedom that I think was really necessary for me personally too.
Well, and I also think some people just want their own space. And for me, it's comfortable. I love this glass. Wait, what?
My chalice with
Yeah.
my espresso martini.
Hey, gotta
This
stay
is
consistent.
a Ross special.
I love it.
So where I'm at in Hawaii, this is kind of a side note. There's no shopping here. It's you have to go into Honolulu. It's like 30 minutes. The only thing here is a Ross. So everyone, when you want to get clothes or home goods or anything, everyone just goes to Ross because it's like the only thing besides the Target. So Ross is like our fancy shopping on the side of the island.
I love I love a good Ross experience if they're good. If you're blessed with a
Yeah,
good Ross.
it's a good Ross, probably because they know that we have nothing else on this
Yeah,
side of the island.
really capitalize there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know where I was going, but either way, I think personal space. So I think some people appreciate personal space more than others. I was someone where like I felt like we could be doing nothing together and I enjoyed that. I just like being in the same room as you and spending that kind of time even if we aren't actively doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And with my partner, he really just wanted his own space. And at first that was really hard for me to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then it came to a point where he explained it in a way where it wasn't like it's not that I don't want to be with you, I just don't want to be around anyone right now and I just need my own space. So whenever we did have the opportunity to have our own house, I made sure that I was respectful in that and gave him a dedicated space where you can hang whatever you want on the walls, you can have whatever decor, you can do whatever the hell you want with this room and I'm not going to say anything about it. And I think
Yeah.
that's worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
I'm looking
One,
over.
did you guys get your own place together though?
What's that?
Did you guys get a new place together or did one of you move into the other
Yeah.
person's space?
Yeah, we got our own place together.
So this is a thing I actually truly do believe in when you move in. I think it's a really good idea to get your own place together and not move into someone else's space. I think moving into someone else's space can cause a lot of friction because it's like it's their space, especially if they've been living alone. It's their space. They know how they like it. They know how they want it. It's all of their stuff. I think if you have the opportunity to do this, getting a new place together is really important. So you're coming in both fresh and there's no like ownership over stuff or decor or how things are done because it's the way that I've done in my house.
You're so right. And I was also thinking too, like, what are things? So, whenever I was thinking, there isn't some magic number on age or time together or anything, but I think that there are conditions to be met, which are also can be conditional to the relationship. But having that understanding of, you know, what do I bring to the table in this situation financially? Having a discussion around finances, that's huge, especially if you're
Yeah.
going to be legally bound in a lease or in a mortgage together.
Yeah.
I would hope that there would be that conversation. And coming along with that is like, also, whose furniture are we going to use? Because some people feel very
Yeah.
sentimental about their furniture.
Yeah, and it's like I don't want that couch that was passed on from your mother that has your and your friends like teenage cum stains on it. That one doesn't need to be in the house. I'm not joking though. I had this conversation with a partner. I kid you not. He had this couch in his parents' house and he wanted to bring it all the way from Maryland to Denver. And it was like his favorite couch. And granted, it was comfy, sure. But then he told me more about the couch. And he's like, oh, yeah, we used to like watch porn in the basement, me and my friends, and we'd all like jerk off on the couch. And he's like, it has sentimental value. I'm like, that couch is not coming. We're not renting a U-Haul for this dirty old couch that's 20 years old that all you and your friends came on to put into our house. We're not doing that. And it was like this huge point of contention because I didn't want the cum couch in the house. It was really sentimental to him, though, and his parents were getting rid of it, and he didn't want them to get rid of
Sentimental.
it.
Sentimental. That brings a whole new definition to sentimental.
Oh, get this, Meredith. It was denim. It was a denim couch.
No.
Yes, it was a
Was it
denim
like a part
couch.
of the set? Like,
It was, I'm sure at one point it was a part of a set. Um, it's funny because one of his friends that were part of the like the masturbation come party when they were teenagers ended up taking it because like that meant so much to their friend group.
what? I
Yeah,
hope he
so he
took
took
it
it.
and burned it.
He put it in his house with his girlfriend because she didn't care.
She must have
And
not
my ex
known
was
that
like,
that
"She's
was the
so
designated.
cool," and I was like, I'm not trying to be a cool girl. I don't want to be a cool girl. That's exhausting."
Yeah, that's. I bet that she did not know that that was the designated cum couch.
Probably not. Yeah, I think that like, but those people do have strange connections to things that like you like. They might have a weird piece of art too that you're like, I don't want this poster on my wall, but it like means a lot to them, and then you have to negotiate around it. I
Yeah,
think starting fresh, if you have the opportunity to do it, is a really good way to start
yeah,
in this in like a moving in situation.
totally. And if you can, yeah, but also goes with that is finances. Can you just furnish a whole new house? And that's also really expensive, and it depends on where you are in your career
Yeah.
and where you're living. Is your option a Ross for furniture, or
Yeah.
like that's also something that's huge too.
Yeah, do you both own your houses? Because also you're not gonna like sell houses probably to move in with another to buy a new house together. But if you're in an apartment, it makes it easier. If you're renting something, it makes it much easier to be like, we can just like get one together.
I feel like didn't Kristen talk about that on the Valley, how she had a house and then she sold her house to move in with a boyfriend and then they broke up.
Yeah.
So if
I
you
did the
can,
same thing last year.
keep your assets.
Keep your assets. I did the same thing last year. I sold my condo to move in with my ex. We broke up. We had a big incident where it was like the start of the breakup 2 days before I closed on selling my house. And so for those 2 months, I didn't move in with him because I was like, I don't know what's happening. And I moved in with a friend and it was very chaotic. And all in all, I'm glad I sold my house at the time that I did because I made a good amount of money and the market was really good. And it's like keeps dipping in value since then. So we made a good financial decision. but I would not ever recommend doing that again to move in with a partner. Don't sell your assets.
Yeah. I think you
And
lucked out in that circumstance, though, for sure.
I lucked out. The universe was probably like, she's going through enough. We'll give her one. We'll give her one good swing.
Definitely.
But
Lots of good
speaking of
memories
that,
of that condo, though.
I know I loved that
Condo was
place.
epic.
It's so funny because the woman bought all my patio furniture. So anytime I would drive by, it was really a mind fuck to me to be like, that's not my house anymore because it all looked the same. And she also bought all my curtains and my couch. So when the curtains were open, the living room looked the same and stuff. And I was just always like, wow, this is really strange that this looks the same, but I don't live there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The I saw this TikTok though. I'm curious what you think about this and the idea of moving in. And this couple decided that they were going to have a move-in fund, like emergency fund for if they broke up. And they each contributed what they decided they could financially. I think for them one partner was contributing 200 a month, another one was contributing 100. And it was like this emergency fund, so if they broke up, they would be able to split it for the person who has to move out. They'd have finances to start over again, and the person who is staying would have the finances to like refurbish the things that were gone. If they decided, if they didn't break up, it was a ring fund, or no, a
Mm.
wedding fund. It wasn't a ring fund. It was a wedding fund. And I was like, that's brilliant. And I think for so many reasons, but I think the biggest one is that takes away this feeling of being trapped in a relationship of like, I have to stay because I don't have the money to leave, or I have to stay because I can't find a place. I have to stay because
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to take care of themselves without me, etc. So I'm curious, what do you think about that idea of like an emergency fund, a
I
breakup
mean,
fund almost?
it's kind of like a version of a prenup, but for relationships where you're not married.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I kind of feel split about it. Like I do love it. I think it would have to take two very emotionally intelligent, mature people that have done the work to make it work.
Yeah.
Because I can also see a situation in which people use it as a weapon in an argument or try to bring it up and use it for something that's not for the to be productive in the relationship. It would just take a lot of work to get to that point to where it actually works out. But I think if two people come into the situation having done the work, I think it could be something good.
Yeah, because I could see if I brought it up to a partner, a partner brought it up to me, I could see if you weren't confident in your relationship or confident in yourself too, and had like work on healing some attachment, it could feel like a threat of like, oh, you don't think we're gonna work out?
Yeah.
When in reality, it's like people break up and no one gets into a relationship or moves in thinking we're going to break up. No one's like, we're going to move in, but we're probably going to break up. Or we're going
Yeah.
to get married, we're probably going to get divorced. No one goes in thinking those things.
Right.
So you need to account for the fact that they might happen because life changes, and making sure that both of you are set up to exit the relationship without feeling stuck, I think is really important.
Totally. Totally agree. Because I've seen that all the time where you're like, well, I want to leave, but I'm, legally bound to this place for the next 7 months or what have you.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about then, like Dolores moving in? Because we talked about like moving into someone else's space, and
Yes.
Dolores like back and forth on her house if she's going to sell it or not to move in with her man.
Polly, yeah.
What do you? I think it's weird. First of all, I think it's weird that he's not divorced yet. It's like, why aren't you getting divorced?
Okay, yes, that part. He should have been divorced a long time ago. And I get sometimes, especially when there are children involved, sometimes it's just easier to maintain. But whenever you're at the point where you are committed to someone else and in a position to be legally bound to someone else in that way, like what? And he gets defensive about it.
He gets super defensive about it, which I think is a red flag for me that he gets so defensive about it. Because if it's a reason of like, I would have to pay triple child support and I can't afford that, so I'm waiting until my kids are 18. Sure, but just say that. Or it's like, I I don't know. I know that there's financial reasons that people don't get divorced, and I know that there's like property reasons, business reasons if you own businesses together, etc. But like, just say it and don't be defensive about it. My issue with him is he's so defensive. So I'm like, what are you hiding? Like,
Yeah.
what are you hiding?
Well, and also I feel like sometimes it could be a good thing if they decide that they are not going to be married. Like, keep your own place, have your own space, have sleepovers, like if it works out. And she also worked so hard on that house. Like, how many seasons have we seen the renovations on that house?
I know.
And so why would she let that go? I hope that she does. I hope she at least like keeps it in the family or keeps that asset somehow. And then they could, I don't know if they did want to buy their own place together. I don't know. But I think it's interesting. So she says, we are moved in. We already live together and I want to be engaged. And
But
then
they don't live together because all the dogs are at her house, so she has to go home to like take care of the dogs, right?
I don't know
Aren't
if
all the pets at
all
her
of them are.
place?
I think her son and her daughter, I don't, that's a good question. But
Okay.
yeah, they're like semi living together.
I think that this is a good point too. Like when people say, "Well, I spend all my time over there. I'm already living there." I don't think that like that's not the same as living with someone.
Yeah.
There's a
Having
big
ownership
difference
of your things. How do you spend your free time? Yeah.
because all her stuff is not there. Like, and also she's, I don't know about their finances, but when you're just staying at your partner's house all the time, you're not typically contributing financially. I know with my ex, I was there. I didn't go home for like, I went home like once a month to get stuff and then like went back to his house for a year. I just never slept at my house for a year. And I didn't contribute financially to that, but I like, my contribution was like, I bought the groceries
Yeah.
sometimes.
Sometimes.
Sometimes I would buy the groceries, but we went to Whole Foods. It was expensive, guys. So sometimes I'd pitch in.
Yeah. That's true too. And like, what is your ownership in how you spend your free time in this house? What is your
Mhm.
ownership in what we do with the decorations and and I think too, there's a part of not feeling like it is your home, like not feeling cozy or homey or welcome in a space that doesn't have your own decor feel. I don't know.
Yeah, or even like all your stuff, like thinking about like you bring clothes over there, sure, but your whole closet isn't there. You bring over, you're not like in your bed. You don't have your sheets. You don't have your like for me too, all the medicine for my dog. She's always sick, or like all of your toiletries and
Yeah.
cosmetics. Like there was a lot of times where I just didn't have things that I wanted, and I was just like, well, I guess I'll go to it next time I go to my house. But you're missing a lot of your items, and I think that's the key part is when you're saying we already live together. Basically, you don't really because all your stuff isn't there, and you're also not legally invested. You're not signing your lease is not there together, or you don't have a mortgage together, which is a
Which
big difference.
yeah, and it could make that option more attractive. It could make
Right.
that more appealing to you in that circumstance.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too that both of Dolores's last partners feel really hesitant to propose and
Yes.
marry her. Because Dolores is a catch, I feel like.
She's so fucking hot.
She's so hot. She's assertive and clear spoken, and but she doesn't like, I feel like she's not irrational when it comes to drama normally.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I don't know. She is playing both sides of the tennis court lately.
Yeah,
So
she is.
I don't know. Maybe that is just because she doesn't like conflict, or maybe she's trying to be rational. I don't know. But I am starting to see, I think we're going to really see next week. I think the clip was Danielle and Dolores. We're kind of going at it. I think we're going to
Yeah.
see some more. I hope that we see something from Dolores. Please God. It's been kind of a boring season last season. It's been the same old, same old. Stir it up, girl. Make it juicy.
Can we talk about Louis' face work really quick though from that last episode? Was it the last episode where they had the awkward lunch where neither of them apologized and they both blamed the other people for not apologizing?
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, that one. His work is what happened.
That's when we
His
talk about
side
you
profile
go too far.
he has like these huge duck lips, these big fake teeth, his orange skin. I'm just like, what happened? He went to Teresa's person. That's what happened.
I don't know. She kind of looks good lately. Like I gotta give it to
She's
her.
looking better. Yeah.
But I don't know. That is to the point where it's gotten too far.
Yeah.
That whole conversation was so cringe because you just see people like nobody would take accountability.
It I was thinking about our podcast as I was watching it because I was like, this is the exact thing that we've highlighted almost every single week, which is like you just have to take accountability. You just have to take accountability. Even if you don't think you hurt someone, if someone says you did, take accountability. And they were both just like, who's gonna apologize first? You're gonna apologize first? You're gonna apologize first? Oh, no one's gonna apologize? Fucking whore. Get out of here. Like,
No, well, Teresa was like basically sorry that you feel that way.
oh, oh, the worst apology ever.
Yeah,
It's not an apology.
I know. And yeah, and the bottle of Blue Label and the drama of Joe throwing the card in the fire, like it was just extra.
It
I'm
really
so glad that
is.
they're on reality TV because those people were made for reality TV.
There are certain people, I'd say Jackson Kristen or some other ones, that are just like, you're made for reality TV and you are excellent to watch.
Yeah. Okay,
Kim
so
Zolciak.
yeah. I have this study and I want to hear your thoughts
Yes.
on it. So this came
Okay.
out of the University of Denver and it says that Rhodes and Stanley used a representative sample of around 1,600 Americans who were married for the first time between 2010 and 2019. And this study found that 34% of marriages ended among those who lived together before being engaged, while just 23% of marriages ended among couples who waited until engagement or marriage to move in together. And
Mm.
there's a couple of things to dissect on the surface of it's a small sample size over a long period of time,
Hmm.
but what are your thoughts?
I think, let me, okay. So I think that a lot of times people that live together feel like they have to take these next steps towards marriage and engagement, even if it's not the person for them. Especially people that live together and have lived together for a long time. Like we've lived together for 8 years. We should probably just get married. And I think that a lot of, I'm going to say that my prediction or assumptive prediction is that the people who got divorced out of that lived together previously probably got married feeling like we have to or we should, or it's too hard to decouple, so let's just get married
Because your life is so intertwined.
because your life is so intertwined. Yeah. What do
I
you
was
think?
also thinking that based on the study design and based on the fact that this was between 2010 and 2019, this is still in the not old, but older generation of folks where you were taught that you know, wait and then you get married or what have you. And I will also say that this means that more than half of the couples stayed together. Like that's also something that
Yeah.
stuck out for me. But I think too it is generationally. Like people in our age bracket are like move in, see what happens. If it doesn't work, you can move out and that's okay. I think that there was more pressure, like you said, on we're already intermingled and we need to be married. Thus, maybe it wasn't a go from the jump. Um, this was also 2010. We're talking right near the recession. Maybe finances came into
Right.
it. There's so many other things to consider about this specific study, but I did think that it was interesting because I personally lived with my partner before we got engaged or married. I hope that it works out. I think it will. And I see a lot of my friends too, almost, and I would advocate for it. Like, you got to try it before you buy it, right? Like, it's so much less stakes if you did decide that it wasn't going to work out to move out than to have go through a whole divorce.
I would never get engaged to someone if I didn't live with them ahead of time.
Yeah.
I
But
wouldn't. Like
religion,
well, so this is really interesting because growing up for me, super religious, one of the things that was almost kind of this like loophole of you're not supposed to live with someone before you're married, obviously, because of sex. But there's like this kind of loophole that was discussed openly in a lot of religious and I think also a lot of conservative circles, which is that if it's the person you know you're going to be with and you marry them, it's okay. And I remember when I went through my breakup with come couch guy in my mid 20s and we lived together, I was so upset about it because there was a deep part of me that was struggling with this belief that I had held on to that like I didn't truly believe, but it was still like in my body of you're supposed to marry this person because you live with them and you moving out is like this ultimate failure of you that you couldn't make this work. Like you're a failure because you're supposed to fight tooth and nail for this relationship. You should fight until you cannot breathe for this relationship. Both of you should, to make sure it works so that you get married because you should only live with one person. And that was a big thing I had to work through in the breakup was this programming around like I moved in with you, I have to marry you.
And to fight, yeah, you think that you're going to marry this person not just because you moved in, but because that was decided at a young age.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
Totally.
I totally hold space for folks where they feel conflicted in this way where religion may have imposed guilt, and that's I think that it is getting smaller. I think that it's becoming more accepted for people in these religious communities to live together before they're getting married. But I mean, I still know people who didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I hope that it all works out. But like, imagine the stress of coming after your wedding and then having to move in and then being like, you brush your teeth like that or you
Yeah.
you do this or you keep your shoes here or and just having to work through that while also holding space for that post-wedding glow and bliss and time of being so happy.
Yeah. I think that not moving in together too, like there's so much you see about someone when you're with them 24/7 and when you like live with them that you do not see when you're just seeing them once in a while or even just like spending the night a couple nights a week.
Yeah.
You see every part of someone. Um that's why I think with my last relationship, I felt so deeply connected to him because we spent all of our time together and I was there all the time. And so I saw every single part of him. And he saw every single part of me too, which is a big difference than other relationships I'd had where it's like before we moved in or when we were just dating, it's like you see each other 2 or 3 days a week. Maybe we spend the night once. You don't see the full picture of someone until you live with them.
Which I will say, and this might even be a hot take. In the beginning, I think that that's a good thing because you still want to have some mystery about this person, have some kind of sense of wanting to impress them and wanting to put your best foot forward, and not in a way that you want to be inauthentic, but you definitely still want to, I don't know, impress and romance this person and want them to do the same for you too. So I think that
Totally.
there is a fine line where at the beginning that is really nice, and then there is a point where you do need to see the full picture.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think that also it's important to remember that that mystery is something that we can continue to create in our relationship.
Yeah.
Um, that we're never done getting to know our partner. If we think we know everything about our partner, that's our ego because we never know everything about them. Because especially if you're in a relationship with someone who's dedicated to like growth and change or education, they they're going to be changing and growing, and we get to continue to know them. There's always
Which
like a little bit of mystery there that we should be investing in getting to know. And it's interesting. I was talking to a couple clients about that this week of when you go on dates and you're in a long-term relationship, your dates should not have conversations around household management. Like you should not be talking about who's getting the oil changed or who's picking the kids up from school or like when you're going to refinance your house. You should be spending in depth time getting to know each other and asking each other about your worlds and your life and your views and your experiences. And it should be like you're dating again, not like now we live together and let's have a meeting about what we have to do for our household management tasks.
And I'm so glad that you said that because it can even be like if you already know the answer to that question or if you already know that story or what have you, just ask the person again because sometimes it is that feeling of someone being interested in you. Sometimes we just want to feel wanted. And even if you already know that question, keep asking because the answer may be different or there may be a detail that they've had forgotten and bring up again.
Yeah, I love. Do you have Esther Perel's deck? Her like question deck?
Uh-uh.
Okay, I love her question deck. There's I think like 200 questions in it. And it's if you played We're Not Really Strangers, it's kind of similar to that.
Yeah.
But I recommend it to almost all of my couples and I have it. I love it. There's a ton of questions that are like serious. Then there's ones that are fun, and then there's also sex questions in there, which I love because a lot of the other decks that are like couples question decks don't have sex questions, and these have great questions about sex and experiences. Um, the thing I love about this deck, though, is and what I noticed is that my answers have and do change. There would be I with my ex would play it in the car anytime we went on a road trip and we just like go through the questions and there'd be times where it really changed. Like one question that I can think of is what are you most afraid of, success or failure? And that question, the answer to that
Mhm.
would change like depending on where I was in life. Another
Depending
thing,
on the day, even.
yeah, it's like what am I, and so there are questions that do change about like your perspective and your experience. Or what's another question, what's one person you need to apologize for or to, and like that changes too. Or what's the best experience you've had in the last year, that's also going to change. So there's a lot of questions you can ask your partner that are going to have different answers to, and you can continue to get to know them through these questions.
So they're not doing a New Jersey reunion. So instead, we host the reunion. We go through the question
We
deck.
go through the question tank. Oh my god, can you imagine asking those women these questions?
Oh my God.
It's okay, so
People that cannot ever take accountability and put their ego in front of everything. That's why they're
what
not
you
doing a reunion. Like, I think Andy Cohen is a good moderator. I think he's a great facilitator. I think he knows how to control the situation. If it's beyond him, we're fucked.
it's I've never has there ever been any other season of Housewives where they've not had a reunion because the people refuse to?
I
Like I
know.
can't think of anything.
I
I
know
can
that
think of
people haven't
reunions
shown
for
up because they didn't
right,
want to participate.
but I can't think of any season where there was like there's no reunion because no one will come.
Yeah.
But people that don't show up to the reunions, they know that they're like their job's on the line.
Right.
Like they know they might get fired for it, and
I
you
don't
have to
know.
be
Mary
okay.
Cosby came back.
Yeah, what an enigma of a human.
Resurrected. She had put
Yeah,
herself to bed and resurrected. But
praise
that's
be, I guess.
she is the exception to the rule.
She to everything,
Yeah,
honestly.
to every rule.
Yeah. Oh my god, what do you think would happen if we asked these women these like in-depth kind of personal questions about their experience on life if we
Well,
asked the Real Housewives?
in my experience, whenever you ask people that can't take accountability and put their ego in front of everything, they always end up deflecting and not actually answering the question, which I think is interesting.
Yeah. It's really interesting too. So I love to play this question game whenever I'm on a date, a first date. Like I bring it out on a first date. I go hard. If we come back to my house, I'm like, we're gonna play the question game before I fuck you. Because I need to know if you can answer these questions and if you have emotional intelligence. Because sometimes I'll bring the question game out and they're like, oh, this question's too hard. And it'll be like, what are you most afraid of, success or failure? They're like, I can't answer that. And so if you can't answer these questions and you don't have the emotional intelligence or capacity to do this, then you don't have the emotional intelligence or capacity to fuck me well.
Yeah, or just fuck me and never talk to you again. I like that's almost like expectation setting. Like, okay, I know exactly what this is
Yeah.
going to be here. That's
I
good.
love those
I
questions.
wonder how that would play out. I have a friend in DC right now and she's in the dating game and she would totally be down. She loves things like this. So I wonder how that would play out if I told her to get this deck of cards.
It's interesting because there's been a few times where people can't answer the questions or they get really uncomfortable. And that's just kind of like, okay, that's this person's not for me. Because I like to have like intense, connected sex. It can be kinky too, and it can be casual, but I want it to be like intense and connected and attuned.
Mm,
Um, and if you can't like connect to your emotions, you probably can't connect to attunement in my body, etc. So it's interesting though because there's been quite a few people where I'll play it with, and they'll make a comment throughout playing it of, wow, no one's ever been this interested in me before, like interested in my experience, or no one's ever cared about my answers to these questions. And it's pretty interesting to also see how much people feel seen by just taking time to get to know them.
yeah. And it builds intimacy.
Totally. And I think that if you live with someone, a question deck like this in the house is so good. Like answer one every night at dinner or
Or
answer one
even
before
once
you
a
go to
week.
bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or grab one, take a picture of it and text it to your partner and be like, "What do you think about this?" And when they have time they can send you a voice note or a text, but doing things to continue to invest in each other's world and experience post moving in is really important.
I agree. It doesn't stop just because you've, cleared that hurdle, that goalpost.
Yeah.
I think if anything, it just ramps up your
What do you
intimacy. Yeah.
what do you and Sam do to continue? I'm putting you on the spot. What do you do? What do you guys do to continue to invest in like your inner world and your intimacy outside of household management and tasks?
So we really take the time to have meals together. And I think it's really nice that we are both able to during the week at least have lunch together, or most nights we'll intentionally have dinner together. And it's very common that we ask each other what the best part of our day was,
Mm,
and that kind of sparks conversation. And then also whenever we have time to have our mornings together, we like to set our intention for the day and then also list out three things that we're grateful for. So I feel very proud of the
I
intentionality
love
that we
that.
both show up with, to be able just to, I don't know, understand how we can show up for each other, and also like celebrate each other and support each other whenever things are going well.
I love that. How do you handle it? Because I think this is a real part of relationships too. When one of you doesn't want to answer those questions, or you're grumpy, or you're frustrated, what do you do?
Um that's really interesting because there are definitely days where one of us is in a kind of headspace where we can't focus on it, but it gets to a point like whenever, like let's say I'm upset or thinking about something or in my head, and then
Mhm.
Sam tries to bring me back down and
Yeah.
say like, okay, well, let's list off three things that you're grateful. If I'm in like an anxiety spiral, that's the last fucking thing I want to do. I don't want to
Right.
be happy. I don't want to be, in that headspace. But then because it has been regular enough that we do this, I'm able to shift my mindset and think, you know, I am in a negative spiral and this isn't going to last forever. And I can also hold gratitude in this moment. So at
Mm,
first, it really annoyed me. And then once I kind of caught on, I really appreciated it and used it as a tool on how to get myself out of these
I
downward
love that.
spirals.
Yeah. I love that so much because that's sometimes we don't want to answer the questions. Sometimes we're grumpy. That's the reality of living together too.
Well,
Sometimes you're going to be a dick to each other.
yeah, and sometimes you just want to sit in it. Like, I just want
Yeah.
to be pissed off right now, or, sitting in whatever I'm feeling.
And I don't want you to fix it because there's nothing to fix. Just let me feel
Right.
it.
But it has been so nice. And I have noticed showing up in a way that you can express gratitude no matter how you're feeling does tremendously change your perspective. Changes your
Mhm.
whole outlook.
Yeah. I had a gratitude journal that I got last year at a Pilates retreat. It's like I think it's called the 5 minute journal. And you write like three things you're grateful for in the morning and three things you're grateful for at night. And it was really good for me at certain points, but then there were also other points where I'm like, I'm not grateful for anything, and I'm really just like, I hate what's happening in my life right now, and I'm in pain.
Yeah,
And so there were times where it was really helpful, and then also times where I was like, this is just reminding me that I'm really depressed and really sad right now.
totally. And that can happen as well.
And I
But
think
I
that's where a partner can be really great
Yep,
too, in that
exactly.
having
Having somebody
having
else
someone to remind you.
and even friends too, like having close friends to bring you there too. I mean, I have friends that when I'm in a downward spiral, I could spend hours talking to them on the phone and feel so much better afterwards.
Totally. I agree with that.
Well, okay, I feel like we covered a lot today. We
Me
covered
too.
all of the New
Plugs.
Jersey stuff. Moving in, when to get in. I guess we didn't really talk about when to get engaged. Maybe that's another time. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm curious to know if anybody else has any comments about this. Comment on YouTube, let us know. Reach out, Bravo Bedside Banter on Gmail. What else? What am I missing?
What's your hot take for the week?
Oh, my hot take is that as much as Teresa could be serving cunt, she's looking great.
She is looking great. That's fair. My hot take is I made a TikTok on this. Gina from OC, right? She's on OC or Beverly Hills. Gina's on OC.
Gina's out in OC, yeah.
Yeah, Gina's on OC. She was did our podcast the other day, and she said like some men just need a first wife so they can be better for the second. And my hot take is fuck that advice. I was so angry. I'm like, because women are not responsible, nor should we be collateral damage in men's healing. Like we should
Mm,
not be collateral damage in men's healing journey. Men should not be like ruining women's lives to be better for the next one to learn a lesson. And
mhm.
that makes me really mad when people say, like, well, he just got better for the next one. It's like, yeah, and he caused a shit ton of pain for someone else and took no accountability for it. Like, we shouldn't be, yes, sometimes we learn by hurting people, totally, but women do not deserve to be collateral damage in men's growth trajectory. And that's my hot take.
Ooh, and that's that on that. I wonder if she was saying that about her first husband or about her current man.
She was, which I find really interesting because she was saying that about for my I also just saw a clip, so I could be getting this wrong. But from my understanding, she was saying that about her first husband and how like he's better to his new partner than he was to her. And like sometimes men just need a first wife, and I was his first wife, and it's like you didn't deserve to go through physical and emotional abuse though. Like
Yeah,
that's not something that like you had to go through in order for him to be better. And if you did have to go through that in order for him to be better, he's a shitty fucking person.
yeah.
Like who didn't do his work before meeting you.
I'm really curious to hear her storyline on this new season.
Me too. I can't wait.
I can't wait. Coming in July.
Then we'll have Housewives to talk about too, which I'm excited for that Housewives to talk about. Jersey's been kind of
Yes.
boring.
Yeah, it's been kind of a lot of the same. So
Yeah.
lots to look forward to. Well, thanks for listening in, everyone. We'll see you next week.